Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terror Boys over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with and talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
The second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch. Is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. We've got Devin Board with us
at Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
All right. We got a special guest tonight, going a little bit outside of PA this week. We have going off the porch. How about it? Driver from Indianapolis, Indiana, Zach Hampton. Zach, thank you for joining us. Good to get to know you a little bit here. And how you doing tonight?
Yeah, good. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been fun. I've been running with you guys in the iRacing League the last couple of weeks. That's been fun. But I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, man,
Absolutely.
No problem. So, I know a little bit. I've seen you in Pennsylvania the last couple of years. Watch you kind of travel around on, Flow and Dirt Vision All Stars and World of Outlaws. But I really don't know a ton about your background. I know your family's been in racing, so if you could just kind of give everybody a little bit of background, family and history in racing. I don't care how far you want to go back. If they started racing the Mayflower all the way to kind of where you're at today, just kind of fill us in a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if they were racing boats back in the Mayflower days, but me and really my sister, who's a couple years older, were like our first generation racers. So her being older, she started like a year and a half before me. And then when I was like 4.5, I started practicing in a quarter midget. And then when I was 5, I started racing. Our family stuff ran until I was like 17, which would have been kind of 2015, 2016. 2015 was the last full year I ran, which was a midget. I ran quarter midgets, micros, and then midgets. And 2016 was the last year we ran like full time, and then I ran the Chili Bowl that following January and that stuff. And then that was kind of it. My dad kind of had enough, I guess. I mean, we ran for like 12, 13 years all around the country. And so he sold everything after the Chili Bowl that year. I ran in 2016. I want to say I didn't race really any at all. And then 2017, I ran a 305, maybe 5 times for Bill Throckmorton and Dan Roberts, who owns Bloomington Speedway. And that was it for.
He's dead.
Yep.
Kind of like his iRacing evening, he is disconnected.
I ran for Kenny Irwin, his midget, like 3 times the
Hold on,
following year.
Can you go back?
The year after that, I ran like 5 305 races or 360 races for James Page, and I bought one of Brian Paulus's old rollers that year. I didn't have a motor or anything. I just bought a roller. And then that winter, which would have been 2018, I talked my dad into buying me a Dash 12 from a local like non-wing guy here in Indy. And that I ran twice and blew up at Attica in hot laps the day I put a wing on it. So I talked him into buying one of Brad Louiette's All Pros in 2019, the Monday, or really the Sunday before Knoxville Nationals. And then Monday I had class for apprenticeship. I was still in the apprenticeship, took the class, came home, put the motor in, and Tuesday I put it on an open trailer and drove to the Nationals. So my first real wing 410 race was the Knoxville Nationals of 2019.
That's wild.
I ran like 5 races that year, and then 2020 is kind of when I came on the board of the 410 scene. And we came to, I guess, like my 5th 410 race would have been the weekend after the Icebreaker out in Pennsylvania.
Right. So
I could edit all that out.
We're here.
So the question we had for you, like you mentioned, your first 410 race was the Knoxville Nationals, or basically leaving to go for that. What made you decide to go do that?
Honestly, I would say Paulus was a good and bad influence on that. Like,
sounds like a posse guy.
one side of it was like that was kind of just the time I broke that Dash 12 6, 7, 8 weeks before I got that All Pro. Actually, funny enough, Cale Thomas, who I grew up racing with, was the one that went with me to Attica. We put the wing on, and we were like 3rd quick in qualifying at Attica, but we blew it up in the heat. And the next day we went to Kistler's, and he looked at it and told me that it was, done. But when it was like 6, maybe 8 weeks later before I got the All Pro, it took a lot of convincing. And it was just kind of the timing of it, I guess I would say, is how it worked out. And Paulus was a bad influence in that retrospect of, oh, you'll be fine, I'll help you, just get out here and we'll figure it out. And I junked that thing. Like, I didn't. I think we ran hot laps and qualifying, and I was like 51st of 53rd of 53 cars. And then he came down before I don't know if it was a C main or non-qualifier. I don't remember how it worked that year or whatever, but he came down and he was like, oh, the car's perfect, just run the top. And 1 and 2 was great. We passed a couple cars. 3 and 4, once we had like actual speed, I entered right behind somebody, not knowing any better, and just the car didn't turn, and I fenced it. So it's still sitting upstairs. I'll never get rid of that car. It was my first sprint car, like my first sprint car. So it's something that I'll never get rid of. But Paulus was not such great influence when it comes to that, I would say.
Yes.
I love Brian Paulus.
So kind of going through that process. I mean, it obviously it's been a lot of years, but that was 2019, and you said 2020. You kind of came to Pennsylvania, and you're traveling. Like, I feel like that happened really fast. What were you? I mean, I don't want to make this sound like a bad thing. Your family has the funds. You have good funds. You work hard. Where did you come up with all the resources to be able to do that in such a short amount of time at such a high level?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I think a lot of guys are afraid to admit where family funds come from and everything. I mean, a big part of it for me is the family funds thing. I'm fortunate enough that my parents are successful. I mean, when I was 2 years old, not so much. I mean, we barely lived in a Cracker Jack box, but my dad, I mean, to this day amazes me the amount he works and his work ethic. And, I'm fortunate enough that my parents have been successful. But Edco came on board that year of 2019 when I ran about 4 or 5 races, which was I did get my dad to buy an all-pro motor from Brad Loyette that year, but I was going off an open trailer that was for a lawnmower. I mean, we could barely fit the sprint car on it. My crew chief was Scotty Males, who right now he's working for Craig Kinzer. We stuffed wheels and tires in the belly lockers of his motorhome and put fuel jugs around the car. I mean, there's a photo that went pretty big on Facebook. I want to say it's Worldwide Sprint Fans of us pulling into Eldora with the motorhome, and that's how I ran in 2019. So I'm fortunate enough that my parents can help a lot, but it's kind of been progressive, I mean, the more I work, the more they're willing to help, type of deal. So it's not all been completely given to me, but in a sense it has. I mean, I'm fortunate enough, but I have to work for it.
And listen, here's the deal with that. I think there's a weird thing in the racing world and industry that people will shun and look down on these kids that daddy's money thing, right? And yeah, if you're not a parent, you don't understand it. But once you're a parent, you want to give every single thing that you can to help your kid be successful. If they want to do it, if they need, they need or want, you want to do everything you can in your power to support your child. And I have 4 of these things. I want to give them anything they ever want, right?
Thanks.
I want to give them
Yeah.
anything they ever want in this life. So, like, I think it's very short-sighted for people to think that way, because at the end of the day, you being on the racetrack in equipment and showing up and supporting these racetracks is a good thing. If your parents didn't have it, would you be there, right? So even if you wanted to be a race car driver, could you? So it's a good thing, and kudos to the family for supporting what you want to do, as a not a career maybe, but racing race cars at the top level. So to me, that's awesome.
And with that, I want to piggyback on that a little bit. We talk about Knoxville being your first race. That next offseason, you come to PA, which is probably the hardest local circuit you have. What made you want to go jump into the deep end with the best of the best? Was it to accelerate like your own growth, or like what was that thought
Or is
process?
it because we start in February like a bunch of idiots?
Yeah. I part of it was, the guy that I hired, who Scotty nailed at the time, he's working for Craig now. He used to work for Jason Sides. He was Jason's crew chief when they won the King's Royal. That's what he knows, right? Is the Outlaws and the best of the best. And he kind of pushed towards that. Not that I was afraid of it, but I think there's a time to go run quote unquote local, and there's a time to go just get better, and getting your ass kicked by the Outlaws and the Posse and the All Stars is one of the best ways to get better if you can, so I think that was a big driving factor. Also, they don't race wing sprint cars here, so I didn't have very many options. And when it came to February, you guys were racing and we weren't. So that kind of made that decision easy, to come out there. The weather was nice that year. I want to say it was 2020. It was right before COVID.
Yeah, that was a packed year.
It was like 50 something, like the weather made sense, and it made sense to go and see, where I was at, and it was a lot of fun.
Sure. And what'd you learn from that though? I mean, for you as a driver, clearly you learned a lot. So
Yeah, I know that year, like I can remember that specifically, and it was tough because it was a day show, and Lincoln is such a different track. I mean, even when it's not a day show, that's such a different track when it's not time trials. So I didn't make it. I didn't make it out of the B. My pill drawing efforts are horrible to this day. So I started in the back, and we were in the B, and we passed cars, but we didn't make it out of the B, and it was just such a weird. It's hard. It's almost hard to compare it to anything now because I feel like I didn't even know anything compared to what I know now. But we went to. I want to say I came the second week, and we went to Port Royal the next day, and we were running in a transfer in the heat when I had a fuel line like rip in half. It was really weird. It was almost like it got cut on something. But so we ended up calling it a day. We were going to be back of a B main or whatever. But I had a lot of fun, and I know at the time I learned a lot, but now it's almost hard to pinpoint what I learned, if that makes sense. It's been so long ago, and things are so much more specific now, like on the track of what I'm learning from race to race now. It's so specific and so minor that it's hard to pinpoint what I learned back then.
But it's safe to say, I think from what you're saying, you had a good foundation between obviously Knoxville and coming here and just not knowing anything. You kind of knew what you needed in the end, and that's where you're studying now, where you now are pinpointing, I need this, I need that, because you know the competition you're racing against. I think that's fair to say. Maybe it was a good foundation for you to learn from.
Yeah, for sure. And I got super lucky that Scotty was where he was at the time because he's really tied in with Dumsney from Australia. He is Scotty, my first crew chief, is Australian. So he's and he worked for Dumsney's for a long time, and he's kind of tied in with all that deal. So I was, with COVID hitting the way it did and stopping Marcus from being able to come over, I got really lucky with him. And like my first year really was, I would say, fairly successful from I hadn't raced really in 3 years standpoint. And so I've kind of I've not had the funding to just immediately have X amount of cars and all that. But he helped me build it up a lot, and he was super helpful as far as just understanding stuff. So I think people don't quite understand. I mean, like on the outside looking in, just how long it takes to get from like even from newcomer to being able to run in Pennsylvania to like being able to compete with the Outlaws anywhere. Like I don't really think most people have a real grasp on just how tough that is. And not that I can compete with them anywhere, but it's tough. I've spent most of my career with, I would say, either the All-Stars or the Outlaws or the Posse, and it's helped a lot, but it's not easy. Like most of those guys always know more than you on and off the track.
And I think that what you learned in Pennsylvania was just seat time. It was laps, and it was laps against competition where you knew you were going to get, you're going to have people giving it their all. You're going to have against good cars. Maybe going to upstate Michigan and winning a race may not have helped you learn as much. Getting your ass kicked a little bit, not only racing a racetrack, but just being behind the wheel and getting laps in a 410 and learning what you should and shouldn't do. Eventually you go, okay, well, now I didn't crash, or I didn't, the dirty air thing. Right. So, it can, when you kind of don't have that, we talk to a lot of young guys on here, and one of the things that I've really learned is you don't know what you don't know. And there's only sometimes you only learn it by being behind the wheel. And I think that's what 2020 was for you, was mistakes or not, you got better from it. No matter, even if you went home and it was on the trailer wrecked, you got better because, okay, I know better. It just got easier because you just did it more often, just like anything. So not like you can just go test and practice anytime you want, like we can in iRacing or any other thing. There isn't just a practice ball field sitting around. You can just go take all the swings you want. So, look, let me go back, because I will say that when you first came to Pennsylvania, I didn't know much and saw some of those struggles, and all over the country. And I think through 21, 22, you were making interviews with Chase Rodman on Dirt Vision and, and dashes and finishing in top tens and things. So what are your goals for this year? What's the plan? What do you have laid out?
Yeah, this year's right now a struggle. So March, I want to say 20th, maybe it was the 21st, found out that my crew chief was going to go do something different. And, last year, 2022, I had what I would consider one of the best crew chiefs in the country. And honestly, a godsend, I mean, for my operation, just as far as organizational and, really got my stuff organized. Not that I don't want to say I was ever disorganized, because I'm pretty OCD, but like when we hired him, there's a lot of understanding that we were going to get everything together, more so. And, Rob Hart did so much for my operation. And I think last year I struggled more than we should. I mean, we made a lot of good shows. We made the historical big one. We won our heat on the qualifying night of the Nationals and made that feature. And, we had a lot of success together, but we didn't win. I didn't win any races. The one we were going to win, we broke an axle. And I think I put so much pressure on myself. I don't think people realize how much, not just external pressure is on drivers, but personal pressure is on drivers. And I put a lot on myself because I figure, Rob Hart works for me. Rob's my crew chief. I should be winning all these races. And, it's just kind of a tough deal. But for this year, right now, I don't have anyone helping me other than Brian Paulus came to West Burlington 34 Raceway with me the first two nights, the IRA shows, which there was I want to say 48 cars both nights. And we ran 15th the first night and 9th the second, which was, I think we should have been better, but first weekend out, and neither one of us knew what to expect from each other. It wasn't all bad. And then my buddy who I ran one of my micros back in the day, Dustin Gates, who's from Louisiana, runs a lot of 360 stuff. He got hurt at the Hawkett last year. He came up to Peevely with me, and we went 6th overall in time trials, 3rd in our heat. And I think we finished 16th in the feature with the Outlaws at Peevely. So, we should have been a lot better at Peevely, but, it's just kind of a tough deal, not having a consistent crew chief, consistent crew, all that. So right now, Friday, I'm going to go to Jacksonville, which will be before this comes out. And then I'll be at 34 with High Limit. And then the same week this comes out, I'm going to run maybe Friday, Saturday with the Outlaws, possibly just one of them. It'll kind of just depend where I'm at. Not having any help other than race nights is kind of leaving me up in the air where I'm at. I've got to change motors or, maintenance bars, all that shit, or stuff.
Oh,
and
you're fine.
You're fine.
So, and then High Limit again with Kokomo on Tuesday, the
2nd of May, I believe it is.
Yeah, the 2nd of May. Yeah. So potentially those are my next 5 races. I'm for sure doing Jacksonville Friday, what'll be 28th 21st. And then High Limit the 25th, and then 28th and 29th, possibly with the Outlaws. And then May the 2nd with Kokomo. Dog's going crazy. I would assume I rent my basement out. I would assume the Polish are home. and he can hear them. So it's that's interesting. They speak, I don't know, shady English, I would say, but they're fun. It's interesting, at least. Helps pay the bills. So and honestly, after the next week and a half, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. I hope I can find somebody full time, even if it's just kind of a mechanic per se. It's just right now there's so much money being spent in this sport, and so many teams racing, and no more crew guys than there was 2 years ago, and we had a shortage of them 2 years ago. So it's a tough deal. But right now during the week, I'm doing it all myself. And at the track, I'm more involved in the setups than I hope to be, because I hate knowing what's going on. I'm just smart enough to be a menace to myself. But it's what I got to do right now. So hopefully I can keep making changes and drive for other people when I can. But I'm taking it week by week right now, seeing what I can be ready for, and that's all I can really do.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say, so I guess my thoughts, knowing the amount of money here in Posse Land, you're doing it all alone. Does it cross your mind, come here and find a base camp for the summer months at the very least, where you're going to have 3 to whatever races a week that are decent paying races that you could do? Or is that just you doing alone? Is it too much then? Like, I don't know what that balance is as far as running a race team.
No, it's 100% been a thought, and I've even kind of pursued it a little bit. At the end of 2021, I was hooked up with Ty Wolfgang, and we were going to try to do something together. We actually ended up winning the Steel City Stampede, I want to say, at Lernerville, which we got a little bit lucky on. We ran good, and then they had a redraw, which we thought was the next day, but it wasn't. So we were at the hotel, and someone texted us that we started on, I want to say the pole, maybe second. We started on the front row and battled for 1 or 2 laps, and then kind of ran away. And luckily, I think AJ Flick, who was better the last 5 laps, just gave me enough room coming off 4 for the checkered. And so we won that, but it just wasn't – me and Ty are both so young, it just wasn't really the right fit for both of us. So we went in different directions. That was 21 to 22 when I hired Rob. And at one point I had talked to Gabrick and even Reinhardt, who I grew up racing with Reinhardt, but I had talked to Scott about just that I was looking maybe at moving my team out there and all that. And I never really could find the shop space. The biggest thing for me here is, my shop is at my house. I bought their last, Paulus and Pender's last team house and shop. That's what I ended up buying. So it's hard for me to just move to PA because I own this place outright. So I have no mortgage, I don't have a rent or whatever. So it's really hard for me to go and rent a shop somewhere else. That's another
right. You got a good deal.
12 or $1,500 a month, expense, or $2,000 a month expense that I never really could find out there. But it was definitely, I don't want to say it was something I thought about. It is something, I think about. And realistically, I hope to drive for other people. Like the family thing is not something I'm always going to be able to do. But I feel like right now, the driving for other people has not been as much an option. Not from lack of trying, but it just hasn't been.
Yeah, sometimes that's timing. That's timing, and right thing at the right time, and for them and you. You could have something you're like, damn, they came to you and it sounds great, but then you're like, well, so it that's hard to put together a lot of times for both parties. It's got to be the right fit.
For sure. And I think the days of driving for somebody else are, coming to an end. Not that they are at an end, but that's diminishing as the price of the sport goes up. And it seems like it's thriving for sure, but everything price wise goes up and up and up and up. So the days of, whoever, XYZ, owning a car and building their own car and making their own wing and shit like that they did back in the day, it's just gone. So somebody is paying for everything, no matter where you look. No matter the ride, someone's paying for it, and that's the tough thing right now.
What are your thoughts on the new tire?
Man, it's really hard for me to gauge because I'm not, Donnie Schatz or Brad Sweet or, et cetera. I don't have the laps on the H tire, our previous tire, and I have 0 laps on the tires before that. So these guys who did get to run that, probably have a way different opinion. I do actually enjoy the new tire. I always felt that I was contrary to what it might look like, a little bit like I had good finesse. Like if there was a bottom, I was usually pretty good on the bottom and good on exit and all that. And I think I still am, but it's different right now. I do like it, but it's just a different feel. You can't just moisture, no moisture, or slick track and you're waiting to get to the moisture. When you get to it, you can't just stand on it. With the H's, you get to the curb or you get to the moisture on the bottom, you could just lay on the gas and that thing would hook up and go. And now, like, there's such a higher growth tire that I think even if you're in the grip, you've got to roll into the throttle. Like, it's just, there's a lot more finesse involved with them. And I do like that, but I don't know. It feels like the right rear grows more than the left rear. And I think right now they're having some shrinkage issues with the left rear. I haven't got to run enough. I've only ran 2 races really with it. And ours shrunk a little, not as much as everyone else is saying, but it seems like there's a lot of left rear issues with them. And I can't say that for sure because I haven't had enough time to pay attention to it. But the right rear for sure is a huge difference. I mean, it grows so fast. As soon as, like, if you have any wheel slippage or tire slippage, like the right rear grows instantly.
Interesting. So we'll just keep going on to random topics here. If you had made the dash of the high limit race and you rolled the dice, would you have taken the number?
No, absolutely not. I actually tweeted, and I don't know if Kyle or Brad saw it. I'll probably talk to him Tuesday when I'm there. My biggest take on the Durst dice roll is nobody's gonna effing take it, right? Because it's stupid. Why the hell would you risk starting 1 or 2 for starting potentially 12th? But you don't know, right? Like, it's just the risk reward is 100% not there. And I love the idea. But if they take it like the way it is, it needs to be forced, right? Like, the dice are being rolled and you're going to be forced to do it. But my suggestion was 12,000 is the most a driver could make by starting 12th, right? Off the current model, 12 grand. That's what Durst has, I would say, committed. It's 12 grand. So instead of making it, you roll the dice and you could start 12th or you could start 7th and it's 7 grand. Instead of 1,000, make it 2 grand. And the first dice you roll is where you start. The second dice you roll is the multiplier. So it's 2 grand. If you roll the 1, well, you start on the pole and you get an extra $2,000 if you win. But if you roll a 6, you start 6th, and say you roll the 1, you still only get $2,000 to win. But if you roll 6-6, you start 6th, you get the extra $12,000.
Yeah, and you have no choice then to take it. It's automatic.
Yeah, no matter what, you start no worse than 6th place, which is a winnable position. Not that it's ideal. I'd rather start pole.
Everybody in the top 5 of the last high limit race was
you're talking about
gained 7-8
Sheldon
spots.
Haudenschild and Kyle Larson and Brent Marks and Anthony Macri. Like, I'm telling you right now, it's a hell of a lot easier to keep those guys behind you than it is to fucking pass them, because you're just you're not gonna pass them. You spend 30 laps hoping they make a mistake and they don't. But starting 6th is winnable. I mean, hell, Brent won from 20th this past weekend, and who was it that ran second? The Outlaw Show.
Macedo.
Macedo went dead last to second at the High Limit Show.
High Limit Show.
McFadden went 12th
you're right.
to second at Peevely. And so it's possible. Is it hard? For sure. I mean, it's way easier to keep them behind you than put them behind you. But I think the risk reward is way more there. If the first dice is just where you start, 1 through 6, the second dice is your multiplier, because you could roll the 1 and start first, and you could roll the 6, which means you get an extra $12,000. Guys are going to take that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably talk to Kyle and Brad about that. I think nobody's going to take the original deal, because it just makes no sense. Like, I'm not starting 12th for an extra $12,000. Fuck that. I'll take the 23 from the pole.
Right. Agreed. But let me ask you this: how many people roll the die though in your situation?
In my situation, I roll the die.
How many roll the die?
If which is very rare that a me, right, is going to be rolling the die, because I win. You're suggesting I win the dash.
No,
right?
I correct. No, but how many people are going to roll? Just the front 2?
Well, yeah, because that's all that's offered.
So, but if you go win the dash and you're on the pole of the feature, now you have to roll a die to now get moved to potentially 6th. Why would you go win the dash? Just finish 3rd.
The extra $12,000.
The extra $12,000 you might be able to make.
Nobody wants to do it. You start on the pole,
because I could still start on the pole and get $12,000 extra.
But
whereas with the current model,
he's saying with his model you could. If you roll 1 on that, you could. Right. But that initial roll, if you roll 1, you just get the pole. You roll a second one. Now you're getting $12,000 for starting from the pole.
Because with my new model, I could start on the pole and get an extra $12,000. With the current model, if I want that extra $12,000, I have to start 12th. Which I'm sorry, but at a high limit race with the quality of cars, you're not winning from 12th. It's not happening. Not realistically. I mean, maybe. It could happen.
A lot of things have to fall the right way.
Yeah, everything has to happen perfectly. But with my model, you could start 6th for only $2,000 more, but you could also start on the pole for $12,000 more.
But if I did my job and I won my heat and I went and won the dash, and now you told me because of a dice roll I have to start 6th and it's only for $2,000.
No, it's your option. It's your option to. You still get the option to roll the dice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with my model, you get the option. But I think if they stick to their current model, they have to make it mandatory. The dice are being fucking rolled, baby.
Right.
It's happening, whether you like it or not.
What he's
you better hope you catch that invert.
What he's saying is his option is more enticing to make guys do it.
Well,
I think mine has a higher risk, higher reward. It actually makes it it's going to make guys think,
if you will.
Do I want to do this or not? I could start 6th for $2,000 more, but I could start pole for $12,000 more. Whereas right now, if you start 2nd, you get $1,000 more. No, I have a 10 and 12 chance. Not even. I have an 11 and 12 chance of starting outside the front row for $3,000 to $12,000 more. No, thank you. I'd rather just start with these guys behind me, put out the, I'll fish slap this bitch off the front stretch every feature, every lap, that's way easier. I think mine makes it like, I don't know, maybe it's a gambler in me, but like it makes people think, like, you could start first for 12 grand more, that's going to make guys, Sunshine and Donnie were both, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I know Sunshine
especially
if he could have started pole for 12 grand more, if that was an option, he probably would have thought about it.
Especially for a 50 grand race. I think we talked about this yesterday on our last show. For 50 grand, there's no real, who cares? But maybe for a 20 grand race, hey, I'll try to go for the extra 12. It might be a little more enticing for the I don't want to say smaller shows because they're still big purses to win, but not 50,
Yeah, and that's why I was like, are you asking if I'm starting in the front row? Because I don't care if it's the biggest race of the year, 20,000 to win it for the year. If I'm starting in the front row, like, I'm rolling the dice because fuck it, why not, right? Like, I'm going to sell T-shirts because of it, and I'm probably not going to win whether I start first or 12. Like, not that, like, I go to every race going, I'm going to win this thing, but like, realistically, like, that full-time field that's running, like, it doesn't really matter, like, look at the All-Star race. There's a lot of good cars there, and Brent won it from 20th, not that he made him look stupid, but, he made him look stupid, like, I texted Kayla, I said, dude, I don't know what you were doing, but, Brent made you look stupid, and, I've raced with Kale and Zeb for a long time, and, like, like, he made you look stupid, not that you were bad, but, like, the dude won from 20th. So, like, there's no way you don't look a little bit stupid when you won the dash. And so for me, I'm taking that because I would love to start 12th for the extra 12 grand. And it's easy to go, oh, I lost because I had to start 12. Like, that's my out. But from a realistic, like, trying to make it a better race is what they're trying to do, is like make it racier. They want to make Kyle start as far back as they can, and then him make us all look stupid, because that's what will probably happen most of the time.
I think you touched on it right there. I said on the show, the last show, the only two guys taking the current deal are named Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet, because no one else is going to do it.
And Brad only gets to run at most 3 of them, right?
Right.
Because
they're the only 2 guys that are going to take that deal because it's good for the promotion side.
So at the current deal, I agree. I think that's the only people taking it, and not that I'm not okay with that, but, like, Brad didn't start on the pole at Putnamville last year. Hell, honestly, like, he barely beat me, at Putnamville last year, and we were good. I was in the dash.
Nice flex.
Yeah, I mean, like, but he also wrecked, and so did I. Me and Kyle both spun out at some point in the feature at Putnamville last year, and I want to say he finished 7th or 8th, and I finished 11th or 12th, maybe. I don't remember, but like, I do think it's really cool what they're doing, and I like the idea. I just think, like, the reason they made it, you get to roll for free, basically, the first night, right, was because they knew that nobody in their right mind was taking that deal, right? That's a shit deal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you could start 12 for 12 grand more. Maybe you get to roll the 2, but you only get 2 grand more if you roll the 2. Like, Snake Eyes is 1 in 12. That's shit. I don't know. Like, it doesn't take a genius to realize those odds are horrible.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, though, do you think that the choose cone and potentially the conditions of the racetrack or the racetrack could change some of that now that they've been through one of these?
Yes and no, and I'm not the greatest person to ask, because I think the choose cone is a fucking absolutely horrible idea for auto racing, because I don't know if you've noticed, but most guys in sprint car, midget, Silver Crown, not so much Silver Crown, but sprint car and midget racing have a serious problem figuring out where to line up, like when you don't have a choice, right? And now you give them a choice. Oh God, I can't see anything but chaos.
It's
Like
awesome.
you're talking like coming to the cone and trying to
Yeah,
have guys
like
pick.
most guys don't
Yeah.
even know what position they are when they get to the cone, let alone whether they get to choose inside or out. You know, like yeah, I think you're better off just telling people where to freaking go. You know,
Yeah, I disagree.
You know,
As a fan, it's entertaining.
I think as a fan, it's entertaining, but like as a, I've been on the racetrack when guys, you know, like you'll have 3 dudes 3 wide under caution, and the shit pisses me off because it's, you know, like they're gonna tell you where to go, right? But you know, like why are you trying to pass people under caution? You know, like you have guys like shoving and trying to wreck each other under caution, you know, for a position. And like, how can we have a choose cone when dudes can't even agree on if they're in 17th or 18th? You know, like that's my opposition to it. I think as a fan, it's a great idea. And if we as drivers weren't so stupid, it would be a great idea. But we're also arrogant and stuff that I don't see how it works, you know, most of the time. It's enough of a struggle without a choose cone, you know, when guys don't have a choice.
Gotcha.
But
so,
as a fan, it's awesome.
I agree. So kind of something that sparked this interview. We talked a couple weeks ago about you coming on, but then you put out a tweet, and a little bit before this, we were talking about some of the replies you were getting. You're not a person that is that shies away from some controversy, I would say. So you know, and you know, you kind of even said that you know, almost kind of misunderstood. You know, so you know, here's a platform for you to kind of clear the air. You know, just tell us about some of the stuff that that comes at you that you feel like is just not true.
Yeah, I mean, so even I'm gonna actually, I don't know if it pauses. Does it pause the?
Yeah, it just takes. We could hear you, but
okay.
But it just takes your
just so that I
off.
can read.
Okay, I got you.
The first thing, in quotes, pay attention to me. If they ain't calling, it's prob for a reason.
I saw that
this
one today.
This is pretty thirsty and desperate.
I saw that tweet today.
Monte Peas. First of all, super freaking original, brother. You're a pea. You know. Oh wait, nope. You're a sweet pea. No salt added. You know, no salt added. It seems like there's a little bit of salt, and I just to reply to that guy, you know, like if I didn't ask for something that I wanted in my life, you know, like I wouldn't have a sprint car team, you know, like because people don't give you shit if you don't ask.
Right.
You know, you know, like what I ask for shit because what are they going to say? No, you know, most people aren't, you know, because that would be awkward, you know? So most people say yes. So like if I want something, I just ask for it. And that's why I have what I have. And because I work my ass off and I ask people to help me. So Del Monte, that's my answer to you. You know, I just, you know, like, yeah, Ross didn't ask me to come on Open Red yet. I'm not Buddy Kofoid, you know, and I never would pretend to be. You know, I've grown up with guys like that, and I'm buddies with Buddy, and, you know, like, he deserves everything he has, and I'm not him. And I probably never will be. But just because I have to ask for something doesn't mean someone wouldn't have offered. You know, they just didn't know that I was willing to do it.
Here we are.
The other dude was, LOL, what's so controversial about crashing? Weird. And I'm not going to read the rest of it because I'm not throwing anybody else under the bus. But I just feel like everyone, I mean, absolutely everybody in the country, not everybody, but everybody that wants to get on Twitter and be a dick that says, "Oh, I'm the biggest sprint car fan in the country," but then their entire Twitter is just bashing race car drivers, whether it's me or David Gravel or Donnie Schatz or whoever. Like they haven't had a nice tweet ever. Like they want to get on here and bash me, and they have no idea, what it takes to do this day in and day out. And they watch David Gravel and Donnie Schatz, and they're like, "Oh, Zach Hampton sucks because he didn't run third at the Outlaws show like David Gravel would have." It's like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, personally, I think I'm one of the least whatever household names that's when I show up to an outlaw race, like somewhat competitive, other than, when we're in, even when I come to Posse Land, like I've been to All-Star and outlaw races where there's 60 cars and I'm in the feature. Sure, I finished 19th, but
just to make it is tough. Yeah.
Better than most, that's better than 60% of the teams there. Like I made the historical big one, which, I ran. I didn't run the second night. The first night of those 4 days, I blew up. The second night was the historical big one we made. The third night was a rain out bullshit. We didn't even unload the car. And the King's Royal, I went out 53rd of 54th for qualifying. And I qualified, I don't know, 37th. We were screwed. And that wreck, I get blamed. I'm sure I got blamed in most circles for it. I was late to the party, I was just there, and me and Danny were both just there. I didn't have an option. There's 7 cars wide wrecking. I'm on the brakes. That's all I can do. So, I think it kind of became cool to, more or less, like, for lack of better term, shit on the 35 when something would happen. But, a lot of times it wasn't even me.
I think
or
that's a fair
completely
statement,
me.
honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair statement.
It takes 2 or more to tango in the racing world.
Right.
I mean, well, yeah. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
The only time I can legitimately think that, I fucked up and maybe it cost other people is the Lawrenceburg accident, which didn't put me on the map. Really, Jacksonville did. 2021, the last Jacksonville Outlaw race. But then the whole Ray Hall incident blew up, I want to say last year. And, I hate to say it, but I was 3, 4, 5 seconds. I was spinning out, when that happened. It's not like I spun out right in front of anybody, and cars came and got collected. The back of the field came and got collected. So that's the only time I can legitimately think, like, man, it was 100% my fault. I spun out or I fucked up and wrecked everybody. Like every other time was like, I don't know, they had a part to play in it at minimum. So it's hard to say. Like I guess what bugs me is that I can make the historical big one. I can make my Knoxville prelim and win the heat race. And I can go quick time at the Outlaws, but like the second I make, nobody talks about that, but the second I make a mistake,
you feel like you become a punching bag?
It's pitchforks and, bonfires,
Does any of that from social media carry back to the pits?
I want to say, I wish I could say no, because, like deep down, I know, like, okay, this, whoever, is on this fake Twitter account doesn't matter. But at some point, like 90% of sprint car racing, and I think most drivers would agree with this, is mental. Whether they're getting shit comments like that or just their own, mental deal, whether, from Donnie Schatz to David Gravel to, Zach Hampton to Devin Borden to, Mac, whoever it is, like there's so much mental that plays a huge part in it. I think it does, at least for me, like, even though I know, like, okay, this nobody derelict that's just tweeting me to be a dick or is, knows nothing, but like after 5, 6, 7 of them, like it's hard to put it in the back of your mind when you get in the car.
Right.
And people don't know. That's why most guys that have a bad wreck or a bad weekend, like it usually strings a couple of them together. It's usually not just one. Like there's so much mental to it that most people who aren't heavily involved or working on a team or traveling on the road, like they just don't understand like the difference between, like I went to IRA races last year and we were top 3 every night, and I go to an outlaw show and I'm 17th, 16th, 15th, like they just don't understand the difference.
Yeah. The Outlaws are the top of the best in the world, really, when it comes to it. So, yeah, I mean, there's not many like locals or anything that'll go in, except for maybe Posse Land here, where the Outlaws will go in and get beat by outsiders. So,
yeah, and even then, like, you've got 1 or 2 most nights, maybe 3. Which not saying they are not a podium or winner. Macri swept Port Royal at the end of last year, but you look at the whole top 10 and you're talking, 3 or 4 in the top 10, which is impressive, compared to, say, Ohio or, Missouri.
Pretty much anywhere else. Yeah.
Even Ohio and California is a tough gig because, there are good cars, but the toughest part about today's sprint car racing is everyone has the equipment. So like the Outlaws coming to Posse Land, or even I, for a local race coming to Posse Land, and like, dude, everyone has that equipment, like, or better. And I've got nice shit, but like, the Devin Bordens, the Macris, the Marks, you guys have super teams out there. Whereas, like, if I go to a race in Wisconsin with the IRA, nothing against those guys, but I'm a top 3 car, even if I kind of run like crap, just because I have better equipment. And that's how the Outlaws used to be, but nowadays that's not the case. Everyone has that stuff, like everyone has the same equipment, and it just comes down to driver and crew chief. And I don't think most people understand quite that level.
Oh, for sure. I agree completely. And the closer you get to learning about that, the more you're like, oh, this isn't as easy as some of these guys make it look. So, so I do a question with every guest we have on, and it is time.
Yes.
So have you watched any of our episodes before this?
I haven't. Not yet.
Perfect. I like it. I like that. So you got to name me 2 drivers. Okay. 2 drivers.
I have to
1
name
driver.
2 drivers?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
This could be any point in your career. It doesn't have to be current. And this isn't a personal thing. Okay. This is racetrack. But 1 driver, you love racing around. You have a great time. It's going to be clean. It's going to be fair. It's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it. And a driver that is absolute thorn in your side, whether it's them passing you or you passing them.
Look at the smile. Look at him. He knows
one
it.
of each.
All right. Both of them being Outlaws, which, I've ran most of my races with them. I would say like 50% of my 410 races have been with the Outlaws. Maybe a little less, but most. Most fun, like, to race around, I would say Sheldon. Any of the Outlaws, I would say you can just racing around them is different than a local somewhere, even a local PA. Like, I can trust they're going to go where they're going to go, right? Like, I know what they're going to, for the most part, know what they're going to do. And Sheldon's one of those guys. Like, you just, even when you're racing around him, you know what he's going to do. Not what he's going to do, but, like, you can tell when you enter the corner or whatever. And he's clean, and he's not going to use you up, anything like that. Not that I've raced around him enough for sure, but I have a little bit. And watching and just understanding how a guy races. The menace, the guy that's just a pain in the ass to be around is Carson Macedo, and not. I think he's gotten.
That's your second person.
Here's my thing. I think he has gotten so much better. Like if you asked me 2 years ago, I would say, man, watch out for him. You know, he's just gonna junk you. But I think he's gotten so much like Larson, and the fact that he's not going to wreck you, but he's sure as damn well going to make you think he is. And, you know, like, he will not wreck you. Like, I genuinely believe if I entered the corner beside him, he's not going to wreck me. But there's not a doubt in my mind that he's going to convince me that he's going to. You know, and, like, that's part of why Larson's so good is because you could be the fastest car on the top, and he's going to keep sliding you from the bottom and make you think that line is good and that he's going to come up and just plug you in the fence and until you go to the bottom, and then he's going to pass you around the outside and make you look stupid, you know? And, like, Carson is so much like that, I think, nowadays, that it just makes it really hard to race because it's like, is the bottom better or is he just good enough that, you know, he's trying to convince me of it, and then you wait, and finally he convinces you, and you go down there, and then they make you look like an asshole. You know, it's just, it's so tough, you know, and you make a 2/10 mistake, and 3 of those guys are by you. You know, right. I mean, I did it a couple times at Peevely. You know, I just entered behind the wrong guy and, you know, got a little bit out of shape. I mean, like, I'm talking 2-3 tenths, and, you know, and Gio and Basin and shots are by me, and it's like, you know, I'm never getting them back, you know, and it's just the dumbest little things, you know, you just get eaten alive by those guys, and it's so tough. But I would say Sheldon's the most enjoyable, and like, he's not going to wear you out, but Carson's just a menace in the sense that he's going to convince you that he's going to do it. Even if he's not, he's going to convince you of it. You give that guy enough laps, he's going to convince you.
Chris is going to have his question, but I'm going to preview the question really quickly by asking something I just had on my mind, and I'll be done. You've traveled, you've done a lot of miles for a young guy, less experienced than a lot of people, and like you said, you know, you're kind of in an area where you got to go somewhere to race. What's been your favorite racetrack so far?
Oh man, that's honestly tough because
only one right answer, otherwise you're banned.
We're all supports, Chris.
I do have a couple, but it's tough because I've been to a couple tracks that I love, but I also went back and it was like, man, this is a shithole. You know, I hate this place because of it. And not that it was a shithole, but it was because of that day and that, you know, whatever. Like, I love Port Royal, but I also have a hatred in my heart for it because I raced so good there, but I can't qualify for shit. Or when I was with Ty, we were qualifying MFers the first 2 nights, and that rear end blew up and demolished that car and me. You know, like, I was screwed up for a few weeks after that one, but that rear end blew up. And so, like, but I also ran the Memorial Day, the Monday day show, and I was like, man, this place sucks ass. I hate this
Labor
place.
Day, the Labor Day class.
Labor Day. Yeah, Labor Day race right before the Tusky. I was like, man, this place can go die. You know, like, I hate it. But, you know, like, that was the day show, and it was just, I'd never done it, and it was just different, and so I hated it. But I also love Peevely. Like, if you look back on my track record with the Outlaws, like, you know, last year I went quick time with them. This year, actually, I think 3 out of 4 of the features last year, I ran like 15th or 16th. I can't seem to get much better than that, but I always qualify really well at Peevely, and I really love that place. But like last year, they put that new dirt down, and it was so rough, and I hated it. You know, I'd call it one of my least favorite tracks, but it's one of my favorites. So it's really hard. If I had to vote, my least favorite track that I've been to, which I feel like is quite a few for the few amount of races I've ran compared to some guys is Fremont. I could be in a casket before I went back to that place, if I'm being honest. But my favorite track's hard. Honestly, I love the Grove.
He wins.
Yeah,
Let's
you
go.
make Chris
The
happy.
Grove to me, like, I feel like so many people say they love Knoxville because it's so technical, and it is. Like, you know, I want so bad to be good at Knoxville, and I'm just, you know, I'm not there. You know, you need laps. But the Grove is a place that I feel like most guys say that, and I've just kind of picked up on it since the first time I was there. I mean, the first time I was there was 50-some cars all-star race, and I made the feature, and I feel like the Grove rewards the brave or the stupid, however you want to look at it. And, you know,
I'm in the stupid category, but yes.
I enjoy the technicality of that place. And I think a lot of it doesn't put on for fans the greatest races, you know, and I would never argue against that because it doesn't. But, like, I think if you love wing sprint car racing and you can understand the difficulty and the dirty air and just all of that stuff, I think you have to love the Grove.
Guess I'm buying a Zach Hampton shirt now.
You know, like, I love the Grove, but
Chris has hearts in his eyes right now.
He's been saying everything I've been saying for months.
I can't say it's my favorite track because I have a bunch of favorite tracks. Like, I feel like the high limit schedule, like, showed me how much me and Larson have in common. Like, Putnamville's a badass track, and that was the first track they went to, and I love 34 Raceway, and, you know, Kokomo, obviously. Eagle I haven't been to. I really hope I get to make it out there this year because I think it sounds like it's a great track. But they go to so many. I do love Grandview. I think they put on great races. You know, I think me and Kyle have a pretty
similar taste.
Similar taste, yeah, like in tracks. And I love Knoxville and Eldora. I'm surprised how good I did at Eldora last year. I think that's an easier track to drive. But, you know, like PA tracks, I would have to say by far Grove's my favorite. I love Port, but I don't do good at Port like I should. You know, like I feel like I race so well there, but I don't qualify well, or I qualify so well and then I don't race well. And
it's hard to put a whole night together there.
Yeah, like that place pisses me off. But the Grove, you know, I have good runs there, and Lincoln I think is, if it's a time trial show, I'm in. If it's not, you know, like I'd just rather not race than go there because you're screwed as an outsider. Start 10th in a heat on a 1-lane track, you know, it's just not even worth it. You know, by the time you run 7th, you start 15th in a B main, and it's like, you know, why'd I even bother? But I think time trial shows Lincoln's fun. I only ran the one there last year, the PA Speed Week show, but I don't know. I love coming out to PA no matter where I get to go because the fans are unreal.
That's right.
Like it's like everyone says it, but it's really it's like nowhere else. I mean, even though a lot of you guys hate me because I wrecked Chad Trout or whoever the hell I allegedly took out that night. The atmosphere.
I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah, I didn't know
so
that
much
either.
more electric than.
Well, now you mentioned it. Now I hate you.
I might have to go to evidence
right
of
now.
it. I don't know. Like pictures of it.
Well,
it's funny
watch
you
the
say
video.
that. I was gonna it's funny you say that because before I get to my question, I remember tweets from old Danny Dietrich talking about how fast you were and stuff like that. So, what is you and Danny Dietrich's relationship, in your opinion? That is a dog. That's a furry
First
puppy.
of all,
if that dog's named
Oliver.
Danny, I'm out.
He's my one and only crew member right here.
There you go.
Look at
Oliver.
that guy.
Oliver. He doesn't like being picked up.
But
He does most.
Yeah,
He
looks
does
pretty
he gets you set up.
He does most of the work around here.
That makes sense. I mean, look at him. He's a genius.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's got a 9/16, and that's all he needs.
What's his his name, though. We love doggos around here.
Oliver.
Oliver.
Yeah.
Oliver with all the wrenches is got Zach ripping. So.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes he has me ripping. Sometimes it's his fault when I wreck. You know, he just
always his
he
fault.
screwed it up.
Yeah. Fur, whatever.
No, like the Danny thing. You know, honestly, I don't know. I know. Has Danny been mad at me before? Absolutely.
Who hasn't he been mad at?
To be fair.
You know, like, but I actually respect the shit out of Danny. I love his.
All of it. Right.
I don't know what you would even call it. You know, just honesty, I guess.
Yeah.
I wish I could be more like that because I am usually like that. I just don't feel like I'm at a point where.
Right.
I feel like until I can win a race and tell somebody to go F themselves, you know, I'm not Danny Dietrich. Right? Like that.
Right. I was like, you've been very blunt with us, but if Danny wins, he could think, hey, I'm the guy. Get ready.
He wins enough races that he can get on Twitter and tell people to go F themselves.
Yep.
I'm not there yet. So until I get there, I just have to respect where he's at, you know, and I don't know. Like, I know Danny's been mad at me before, and you know, have I been, you know, whatever, a little rough on him? Probably. But, you know, like, he's rough on me. You know, we are all racing for the same positions. So I would say I'm 25 compared to him. Whereas, you know, when he was 25, he probably wouldn't have leaned on Fred Raymer the way I'm going to lean on Danny Dietrich. Because I just don't give a shit. I've got that younger entitled mentality, you can call it. I don't know what it is, but I don't really care. Like, I'm just, you know, like, if I'm faster than you, I'm going to lean on you. Even if I'm not faster than you and we start next to each other, well, I don't know, qualify better. I'm going to lean on you, right? Like, that's my job as a race car driver, is to put your ass away. You know, like, I don't care who you are. That's the job. So, but I really, 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 really respect Danny and where he's at. And I don't know why he kind of liked me from the beginning. I know he's been mad at me, but he's always kind of defended me a little bit on Twitter or what have you.
And that's where that question came from, because I saw him. You had a couple of rough races there, and he talked about how fast you were and the raw speed. Like, you know, you talk about qualifying well and, you know, tearing up race cars. It's your fault, whose fault, whoever's fault. But, like, he kind of put out there, like, hey, there's more to it. Like, if you can learn that part, like, I appreciated that from him.
Yep.
And
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And you know, a lot of guys have said it in the racing, whatever world, to me, whether it's a driver or, you know, it's Dave Sharpley or whoever, you know, like, the speed thing is something that can't be taught. The not wrecking and the calmness and all that is something that comes with time, you know, like,
sounds familiar.
You know, so I think as a driver, it's easier for Danny to spot that, whether, you know, Danny still thinks that, I don't know. I would hope he does, because I think I think it's really easy to go like, oh, Zach Hampton's not as fast as Donnie Schatz, right? Because that's who I run with a lot.
Well, no shit,
Donnie Schatz is one of the greatest
sprint car drivers ever. Like,
you know, like, I run 15th with the Outlaws, but nobody says anything when I show up to an IRA or MOA show and I'm a top 3 car every night. You know, like, you know, nobody says anything because it's not on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like, when you go run with the Outlaws, whether it's me, you know, I run a lot more with them than, say, a PA posse guy, is like that speed, that
just
pace,
perfection. Just the way they run their line, everything they do is perfect.
It's so unreal, man. I mean, like, I'm talking, you know, I'm a top 3 car anywhere in the country, top 10 with the posse. You know, I think if you sat me in a local PA show, I'm a top 10 car every night. You know, like, I personally, I feel that way. And I think I've proven that when I ran the local shit out there, you know, whether I finished 13th or not, like, I'm a top 10 speed car. And you set me with the posse, I'd do 15th, 14th, or not with the posse, with the Outlaws, 14th or 15th, like at my best track in the country where I qualify 6th or quick time and I run 3rd in my heat, like that's the best it's going to get. And like their pace is so unmatchable. It's just, people understand, but they don't understand, like what that means for 40 laps.
Right.
It's just if you're not one of them, it seems unobtainable,
Right, and I think we're a little spoiled here because like we seen like Brock and Brent Marks go out on the Outlaw Tour and they kind of did what you're talking about. They kind of got the tails kicked for years, and then they came back home and they're
God,
right?
I hate to say it, Brent Marks now can go win an outlaw race somewhere, but he spent 2 or 3 years on the road with the Outlaws, and like I hate to say it, but he sucked. I mean, he got his ass kicked. He wasn't in the top 10 car.
Yeah, it's a fact. It's a fact.
And that's nothing against Brent. He's an incredible race car driver now. And like I think he could go back out on tour and
he could now compete
for a championship with them. I mean, he's so good now. But like when he went out there, I mean, he was a top 3, top 5 PA guy, and I mean, he just got his ass beat every night. And guys just, people don't understand that. I mean, it's a totally different ball. It's almost a different sport when you go run with the Outlaws versus anywhere else. All stars a little bit. You've got Sunshine and not so much Reitzel anymore, but, they're tough too. But, like, man, it's just I put a perfect night together. 6th quick, 3rd in the heat, and we weren't horrible, and I go backwards, but I look at the finish, and it's Gravel and Rico and Sheldon a couple spots ahead of me. It's like, I want to be upset that we went backwards, but like, shit, dude, like how can I be? I mean, these guys have 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 outlaw wins, and people just don't. I feel like the majority of fans, the majority of fans don't respect the fact that I don't get to race 100 times a year. Like even the PA guys are spoiled in the fact that they get 3 races a week, and I don't, and for a long time, I haven't had the operation that was capable of, and I still don't. I have the equipment and motors maybe, but now I don't have the manpower to. So I think I get compared to guys that are just unreasonable comparisons, not that they're not great race car drivers, but I have never had the same means as these guys. And yes, I wreck more than Donnie Schatz, but if you go back and look, Donnie Schatz used to wreck a shitload. And so did Kyle Larson. Before Kyle was Kyle, before anyone knew his name, the dude wrecked everything under the sun.
That's how you learn.
And Buddy Kofoid, who I'm buddies with, and no pun intended, he's an incredible sprint car driver, but he got to start racing sprint cars when he was like 12 years old. I mean, the guy he raced for bought a track in another state, bought 10 cars so people could race, and like, how do I compete with that? Like, I mean, he was almost bred to race sprint cars, and nothing against him. He's an incredible race car driver, but you compare guys like me or, even local PA guys, to those guys. And it's like, of course we suck. Of course I suck compared to Ryan Timms. I've known Ryan. I probably taught Ryan a lot of things he shouldn't have known when he shouldn't have known them. But, like, he's a great race car driver, but he's raced more in the last calendar year than I have in the last 5 years, so you can't really compare me to that guy, even if he is younger.
For sure.
So
it's interesting. It's interesting that you say that because we've heard that from a lot of guys. Seat time, everything else. So to kind of tie it back in. So now you're looking at this year and you won at Lernerville. What my question? Jay-Z alluded to it a while ago. My question is, if you as a sprint car driver, what would be the number one race you want to win?
I mean, because I'm a race car driver, I want to win the million because I'm arrogant, and that's the one that everyone wants to win.
The Eldora Million.
Yeah.
But
clarify.
Like I can't say that there's any one race that's not like an obvious, I want to win the million. I want to win. Honestly, I'd be okay with a local Knoxville win. I mean, like, I want so bad to be good there, but it's so freaking hard, man. Like, people don't understand. I mean, you move your wheel a quarter of an inch too much and 17 guys have passed you. I mean, it's just unreal when you're talking nationals time there. I mean, you make one mistake and everybody on the track is gone by you, or you're now 43rd quick. I mean, it's just people don't understand that. And I want so bad to be good there. I would love to win a race there. I would love to win the National Open, but as far as like goals for this year, especially right now with it just kind of being, I don't want to say just being me making the calls, but like I don't have a consistent crew chief. So whether it's Brian Paulus coming to help me or my buddy Dustin Gates, like it's kind of mix and match, or my buddy Jeffrey that's going to come to the next couple weeks with me. Like, I think my biggest goal is not even necessarily to win a race, but get to a point where like I myself have a good car balance and that I'm comfortable with and like can be competitive wherever I go. I think one thing that Brent Marks has going for him is that like he understands his car and what's going on, and I think that I'm drawing a blank now.
It's spot
on his. Yeah. I'm trying to think on his crew chief. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
I mean, I don't know either, but this is where Jay-Z
I
would be
should
helpful.
know.
But like,
I should know the name. I'm just drawing a blank.
what I'm just saying is like I've seen him, like, to your point,
they
though,
keep each other in check.
Like they're
Brent
working all night long, and like
Brent understands.
They got the chemistry there.
I'm gonna really feel bad if I can't think of his name, but he was with Borden at the 27. I'm gonna feel bad because he's actually really smart.
Nice.
Damn, I'm a dick. Either way, I'm gonna think of it like right after this. But Heath Moyle.
Oh. Yeah.
Him and Heath keep each other in check. They're both really smart, but Brent knows what's going on. And before Heath, Brent was making his own calls, but I think Heath keeps Brent in check from making too big of a call. I think
like
Brent
you were saying,
Brent would throw the kitchen sink out of it every night if he could, and I think Heath keeps him in check, and that's a good deal for them. So I think if I could get somewhere like that, I would be really, really happy. I'd love to win races this year, but like right now, looking at where it's going, unless I go, I hate to say cherry pick, which I don't want to just go to races where I know nobody's going to be at. It's going to be tough. I had one of the best crew chiefs last year, and I didn't do as good as I think I should have. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, but that means it's only going to be harder now. So I would say my goals on the year is to just I'd love to get a top 10 with the Outlaws. I'm kind of upset we didn't get to run Saturday at Peevely because I think I could have. But, I think if I can just make progress as a driver and as my own crew chief per se, I would be really happy. It's tough to say when there's so many questions up in the air for me for this season.
Right.
I need to find a full-time guy or a team where, even if it's I bring my motors and they have guys or they have cars or, it's kind of we team up with another team. It's just it's hard to say because there's just so many possibilities with where I'm at, and it's just a matter of when other people get to that point of F it, I'm done with this team or whatever. Everyone's so new, like the season just started, so it's hard to say.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us and talking with us and being very blunt and honest. We love that because we're the same way.
We are here for that.
Yeah. So before we let you go, you want to give a shout out to all the sponsors and stuff that help you get to the tracks?
Yeah, Edco General Contractors is huge. Cole's been a big part, and I would say the biggest thing he does, he gives me quite a bit of money, but the biggest thing is he's so optimistic, and he doesn't necessarily know the sport completely, but he's so optimistic, and that's huge for me. I'm probably a glass half full kind of guy myself, so I need a lot of that. But Collision Concepts out of Illinois, Irv and Ryan Guyad have been, I've known them forever. Ryan ran our second micro for a long time, and they've been helping out a lot. HPI, which is here in Indianapolis, Horsepower Inc. They make some badass Harley stainless headers. They make throttle bodies. I know a lot of people know who they are, and Jimmy's been pretty awesome for me. Bought me a couple suits, a helmet, just small stuff like that. And DMI, there's a lot of people. Smith, discounts here and there, helping, which realistically comes down to, I'm spending a lot of money. Can you help me out? But, there's a lot of guys like, DMI, Smith, products, Titanium. And my parents are obviously a big part in it. So I got to thank them. And it's not something I'll be able to do forever as far as running my own stuff or team or whatever. But, I can't imagine doing anything else, whether it's driving or working for somebody else. I can't imagine leaving the sport. So it's been a fun ride, and hopefully it doesn't end as far as a driving standpoint. But I felt like I needed a bigger audience or per se to reach and just kind of tell my story. I feel like I've lived a pretty awesome life that most people, wouldn't necessarily get the option to or opportunity. And, so I've been fortunate, but I also don't want to be, I feel like a lot of people are, try to make it look like their parents aren't involved or it's not family money or whatever. And even if it's not, somebody's daddy's paying for something.
Somebody's paying for it, yeah.
Right.
The money doesn't fall
in the
for
words
trees.
in the words of Keith Coons, whether it's your biological daddy or not, somebody's daddy's paying for it. So that's just how it is. And I feel like I've just been I feel like because I'm not big on social media, because I just don't care to be, that I'm almost the easy cop out, or I'm dehumanized, because I'm not on there. Whereas like everyone, David, Gravel's the best at reaching out to his fans and all that. And, I feel like, people didn't understand how hard I worked to be where I'm at, and how hard I continue to work to be where I'm at. And, maybe that would sway their decision and saying I'm just some non-driving SOB. Not that I care what John Doe's opinion is, but
no, but it helps, and I think we appreciate you coming here, because I learned a lot about you, and I appreciate what you're doing and what you're trying to do and where you came from. And one guy, operation, driver, crew guy, mechanic, tire guy, all that. That's awesome. So we'll promote the hell out of it, and I hope they all start buying shirts. I know it sucks. I know it sucks, but it's so
there's
cool.
There's better qualified people to be doing what I'm doing for sure. But that's
I can tell
just
you,
the
those
situation
qualified
I'm
guys
in.
are not sitting here. We are not qualified.
Yeah,
I want to come crew chief, but I could. You'd be better off.
Yeah, when I say I'm crew chiefing myself, I mean I've got inches and quarters in it, and I'm doing some basic ass shit and just making small changes, and hoping I can drive the thing. I know a lot of other guys. I've never really been big on last year I was fortunate to have Rob and a full-time guy, but that was the only year that I have, and I've never been big on, get on social media and toot my own horn about doing it on my own or whatever, because, whether anybody noticed or not, this is what I love to do and this is what I want to do. And I really don't give a shit if anyone else cares or not, you know, but I just, at some point, you know, I do care that other people realize what I'm doing, because there's no better feeling as a race car driver than, you know, people, kids, whatever, coming up and, you know, showing appreciation for what you do. And there's no worse feeling than thinking that somebody, you know, despises you and they've never even spoken to you, but because of some shit that, you know, Flo did or didn't show, or Dirt Vision did or didn't show. So I just kind of wanted to get on somewhere where people could kind of hear me talk and understand where I come from and all that stuff, and maybe realize that I'm not, you know, funding puppy mills like it might seem on Twitter or whatever. You know, I feel like sometimes that's what it seems like, but I don't fund them. So I don't know. That's just kind of where I was at, and I was just kind of over it. And you know, it's one of those things. I get bashed if something goes wrong, and nobody gives a shit if something goes right.
Right.
So,
well,
yeah. Well,
best
the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Put the hell out of you, and you gotta come to PA so Jay-Z can get some sick pics of your car.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it was preferably like Port Royal, Williams Grove, but like, you know,
I hope to make it out this year. I don't right now, dude. Other than
Just not sure.
for Kokomo, I have absolutely no idea what I'm gonna do. So,
well, there's a big race at the end of May at Port Royal. You should come there. It's called the Wykert. Bring the car.
I think I've heard of it. I think I've ran it.
It's $29,000 to win, I do believe, and you get a bullhead if you win it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the real key is Jeremy's going to get all the sick pics of your car so we can post them everywhere.
Yeah, I think I was in the something Tribune in PA, upside down when the rear rim blew up. I don't know who took that picture, but
that was not Jeremy.
That was a big deal. But I was there last year, so I love coming out to the Grove and Port Royal, and I definitely will make it out at some point this year. I just right now I have no idea when. Hopefully I can either find somebody full time and be able to make it out there, or find a ride out there. You know, I don't know what my options are right now, but I know something will come up, and I don't plan on the year ending without me coming out there, because I do love both of those tracks. So
well,
that's awesome.
We'll be excited to see you. Yeah.
When you're there, when you're coming here, we will find you in the pits.
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me.
Hopefully, you know, you get some of that stuff figured out, because you got a lot of potential and a lot of drive to be great. And I think hopefully when that all does get settled out, we can have you on again after you get an Outlaw win. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe someday. I'll settle for any kind of win right now. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, if I win an Outlaw race, you know, F you guys. I ain't coming on this podcast. You know? I'll be on the open red.
There you go.
No, I'll
be too big.
Wing Nation.
Wing Nation.
Yeah, I'll be too big time for you guys. You know?
That's fine.
See you later.
We'll still love you. It's fine.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, you know, I appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully I get to meet you guys sometime in person this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Right. Zach Hampton, everybody. Thank you.